You know, in the 21st century, there's a new global competition heating up. And it's not about territory, it's not about weapons, it's about energy. The race to build and roll out the next generation of clean, reliable power is officially on. And whoever wins this race is going to define the economic and geopolitical map for decades. So that's the big question, right? Who is going to power our future? Who's going to build the infrastructure, own the tech, and control the supply chains for the energy that literally runs our world? That's what we're breaking down today. So let's get into it. At the very heart of this race, we're seeing two totally different playbooks emerge. On one side, you've got China's massive state-led industrial plan. We're talking centralized planning and just unprecedented scale. And on the other side, America's model of market-driven, decentralized innovation, a real Cambrian explosion of new ideas and technologies, all fueled by private money. Okay, so let's start with China. Their approach is really a masterclass in scale. It's an energy transition that's being driven first and foremost by just massive industrial expansion and infrastructure projects. To really get your head around the scale here, you only need to remember one number: 28. That is how many nuclear reactors China has under construction as we speak. Now get this, that's nearly half of all the nuclear reactors being built on the entire planet right now. It is just an astonishing display of industrial ambition.
And, this isn't just happening by chance. It is a core part of China's 15th five-year plan, the country's central economic blueprint. The goal here is to nearly double its nuclear capacity in just 5 years, going from about 62 gigawatts to 110 by 2030. This is what industrial policy looks like on a truly national scale.
But what's really wild is how clean energy has become this structural pillar for China's entire economy. I mean, projections for 2025 show the sector accounting for more than a third of GDP growth, over 90% of the rise in investment, and a staggering 11.4% of the total GDP. For China, the energy transition is the growth strategy. And the gap this creates, it is just staggering. In 2025 alone, China is projected to add 430 gigawatts of new renewable capacity. To put that in perspective, the EU is at 84 gigawatts and the US is at 60. China isn't just building more, it's installing more clean energy capacity than the rest of the world combined. And that creates this massive industrial overcapacity that then fuels its exports. All right, now let's pivot and look at the United States, because its strategy is completely different. It's less about a single unified plan and way more about a diverse, market-driven ecosystem, that Cambrian explosion of competing technologies we mentioned. So what's fueling all this innovation? A new power shock. You see, after 15 years of totally flat electricity use, US demand is suddenly growing again. And what's driving it? The absolutely insatiable energy needs of AI and data centers. This has created a sudden, urgent commercial demand for new, clean, and totally reliable power sources. And you can see this happening in real time. I mean, tech giants like Meta are now signing deals to buy power from advanced nuclear reactors that haven't even been built yet. This isn't a government plan. This is the market itself creating this powerful pull for next-generation nuclear tech. And this commercial demand is being met by an incredible diversity of innovators. We're seeing dozens and dozens of startups pursuing a whole range of technologies. On one hand, you have advanced fission reactors from companies like TerraPower and Oklo, and on the other, you've got a whole crew of companies tackling the holy grail of clean energy, nuclear fusion. We're talking Helion, Zap Energy, and more. And believe me, the money is following the innovation. American startups have captured more than 3/4 of the over $10 billion in private funding that's been raised globally for fusion energy. This is the market-driven model in action, private capital placing huge bets on a technological breakthrough. So we have these two competing models, China's scale versus America's innovation. But where does that leave Europe? Well, it's kind of caught in a strategic dilemma, trying to carve out its own path while navigating the competition between these two giants. This slide really reveals Europe's critical vulnerability in this race. Over 90%, you heard that right, 90% of the solar panels installed in the European Union are imported directly from China. This massive dependency is a real threat to Europe's long-term industrial sovereignty and its ability to compete. So what's Europe's response? It's something called the Proposed Industry Accelerator Act. The strategy is to leverage its single greatest asset, the world's largest single market, by basically saying, hey, if you want access to our market, you need to create value here. The EU hopes to rebuild its own domestic manufacturing in key areas like batteries and solar.
But here's the thing. Whether we're talking about the US, China, or Europe, nobody has a clear, easy path to dominance. Every single contender is facing major hurdles, especially when it comes to the incredibly complex global supply chain for nuclear energy.
You know, the nuclear fuel cycle is a really complex, multi-stage industrial process. It starts with mining uranium ore, which then has to be converted, then it's enriched to make it more potent, and then finally it's fabricated into these incredibly precise fuel assemblies. A disruption at any one of those stages can bring the entire global supply chain to a screeching halt. And here's the problem. That next generation of reactors we've been talking about, they need a brand new type of fuel called HALEU, or high-assay low-enriched uranium. And while the tech to make it exists, the industrial capacity to produce HALEU at a commercial scale, well, it just isn't there yet. This creates a huge bottleneck for the entire advanced nuclear industry in the West. And of course, there's the decades-old question that always looms over this entire industry. What on earth do we do with the nuclear waste? Public acceptance and finding a viable long-term solution is still a massive hurdle. But innovators are tackling this age-old challenge head-on. A company called Deep Isolation is validating a technology called deep borehole disposal, and their analysis shows it could be compatible with waste from recycled advanced reactor fuel and could potentially achieve safety levels that are way beyond our current standards. It offers a real path to finally closing the fuel cycle. So let's bring it all together and look at these two competing visions side by side. On one side, you have China's state-led approach. It's defined by central planning, and its key strength is just massive scale. It's driven by a national industrial strategy focused on deploying existing tech. On the other side, you've got America's market-driven model, defined by decentralized innovation. Its strength is speed and diversity, focused on developing next-gen fission and fusion, and it's all being pulled forward by that surging commercial demand from AI. And this brings us right back to our final question. The planner versus the innovator, the top-down, state-directed plan versus the bottom-up, market-driven explosion of ideas. Both have incredible strengths, and both have critical weaknesses. The model that ultimately succeeds won't just win an economic race, it's going to define the energy landscape and the global balance of power for the rest of the 21st century.